Does anyone else just sit there and think, why does everyone go to university? Like, why is it such a normal thing to go £60,000 into debt just to learn something that you could have learnt yourself for free? Now obviously that doesn't apply to everyone, but for those that it does apply to, today's video is about 5 high-paying jobs that you can find yourself in with no degree. Now I think it's worth mentioning that to get a high-paying job, you're going to have to put a lot of work in either way, regardless of whether you have a degree or not. It's going to require you to put yourself out there and stand out from your competition. That ultimately decides whether you get a job or not. And to do that, you have to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm so that you can put it on your CV. No, but seriously, if you could do that for me, it would honestly mean the world, and it would help us push this content out to at least a couple more people so that we could keep growing this channel together. Okay, so let's jump straight into it with job number 1, and make sure you stay right up until the end to hear my favourite job on the list, and it's one that I actually see myself doing in the near future. Okay, so the first job I'd like to speak about is being an accountant. Now, this would be one of the higher paid jobs on today's list because I'm trying to find a balance between high paid jobs and also jobs that aren't only high paid but you can also enjoy. So they're not as high paid as you like them to be, but you can actually get something great out of them in terms of experience and becoming a better person. So I'd like to start with one of the higher paying jobs on the list, and that's being an accountant. Now accountancy gets a bad rep for being boring sometimes, but something that's never been in doubt is just how well it pays, and you might actually be surprised that you do not need a degree to become an accountant. That being said, most employers will just pay for you to do an AAT so that you could progress further in the job, and once you've done that, you can expect to be earning anywhere between £35,000 and £40,000 as a starting salary as an accountant, and that can easily rise up to £100,000 or even more if you start your own business. So it's definitely something that is achievable, and definitely something that is very interesting for those that don't want to go to university and perhaps see an apprenticeship as something more viable, or just joining a company and studying at their expense instead. Now the second job on my list is perhaps better suited to the creatives amongst us, and that is digital marketing. Now this sector is particularly fast paced, everything is always changing, and as we've seen around us, the world constantly needs things to be portrayed in different ways, and therefore digital marketing will always be a skill that is needed. So if you're familiar with things such as SEO or AdWords or anything like that, you could put those skills to good use in a digital marketing role and earn yourself a pretty high salary without a university degree. All you'll need to thrive is some creativity and the willingness to learn new things, and really just stick at it really, because to begin with you might be sitting at an unpaid internship listening to someone that really isn't too interesting and just learning the core basics of digital marketing, but then on the other side of the spectrum you could be just moments away from landing your first high paid role, and that could be anywhere between £50,000 if you're working in the finance sector, or on the lower end of the scale even £30,000, but anywhere in between that pay range you're doing well for somebody that hasn't got a university degree, and you are using your creative brain and using, skills that not everyone has to really enjoy your career and get something good out of it. Now the third job on the list is perhaps something that you've never heard of before, and that is being an ethical hacker. The rise of the digital age has brought about so many new jobs, but being an ethical hacker is definitely one of the stranger ones. This job requires a computer whiz to hack into company IT systems to test how secure they are. Nowadays, most highly skilled hackers out there don't have a university degree and are self-taught, so this niche role most definitely doesn't require a degree. Now companies will pay ethical hackers an impressive £35,000 to start off with, and this could rise all the way up to £90,000 if you're successful as an ethical hacker. So if you're into coding, if you're into computing, this is definitely something that you should look into, and it could be as simple as watching a couple of YouTube tutorials to really find a new passion for coding. Now we're just about to get on to the fifth and final one, which will be my future career for the foreseeable future, but just before we do, our fourth career on the list, which perhaps isn't as high paid as some of those that I've just listed, but on the other hand it gives you a wealth of experience in exchange. The fourth job on the list is being a cabin crew member. Now the type of experience you have as a cabin crew member will vary from airline to airline, but on the whole it's a great opportunity to travel the world and be paid for it. Not only do you have paid accommodation in some of the best countries in the world, but at the same time you're interacting with people on a daily basis and travelling and being paid for it. For some people it's the dream, for others it might not quite be, but for those that don't have any commitments and for those that don't see the university pathway as a viable option straight after school, it's definitely something to consider. From a training perspective, you will still be required to attend usually a 4-week course, which is rather intense. It's 4 weeks of learning day in, day out of how the airline wants you to work, followed by some online assessments and some in-person assessments too. So there definitely is a bit of learning to do beforehand, but of course it's not a 3-year university degree or anything similar to that at all. Once you're all set, you can expect to be earning anywhere between £20,000 and £25,000, and some airlines also pay depending on how many flights you do or how many hours you're away from home. So it's definitely something to look into, and each company will of course have its own way of doing things. Now the fifth and final job, which is my favourite on the list, is becoming an estate agent. Now this is very much a people heavy and business heavy industry where you will be putting in a lot of hours, it will be high pressure, but I think what you get out of it in terms of experience and the money as well is definitely worth it, and it's definitely something that young people should be going into to not only develop their personal skills but also grow their net worth. You know, what I'm trying to say is it's a great wealth of experience, both in the money you get and the experiences you have and the people you meet and the skills that you build, because at the end of the day, to be able to sell something is a great skill and it's something that's always going to be in demand. So building up sales skills, building up connections, and also building up your wallet is definitely some of the reasons that I'd put in front of anyone that wants to become an estate agent early on. Now the average salary for an estate agent in London is £37,500, and you most certainly do not need a degree to do this. Most estate agents start off as trainees, and your starting salary may be anywhere between £15,000 and £20,000 with a small allowance on top to begin with just to get you started. But the main source of payment for this job is commission, so you really are paid in relation to how much work you put in. So the more properties you sell, the higher your paycheck will be, and that's why I feel like it's a great thing for young people to get involved with, as it really does teach hard work, and you're getting something for the work that you're putting in, so it can really feel rewarding at times. Whilst the average salary is £37,500, some of the top agents in the country will be earning upwards of £100,000 depending on what sort of company you work for and what area you operate in. Now this is a relatively simple business model, so for those that are entrepreneurial out there, in the future it could be possible to start your own agency and exponentially increase your income. So that just about wraps up the top 5 high paying jobs that you do not need a degree for. Now these aren't necessarily ultra high paying jobs, and you know, some on the lower end, £30,000, that might not seem like a lot to some people, but to others it might mean a lot more, because the national minimum wage in the country I think is anywhere between £16,000 and £18,000 a year, so you're definitely doing better than the bare minimum. Now with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave comments down below, and once again I'd really appreciate it if you could smash that like button to help me out in that YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.